and thanks for staying on LN 24/7. This is Politics Now. My name is Morno Balagbobo. We've got a quite packed show for you as always. We'll begin with Tinubu's handling of the economy. Here is a rundown of some of our talking points. We're looking at inflation rate at 32.70%. Tax reforms and equity, there's a lot to talk about. And of course, potential for revenue generation for our country. And we're looking at economic reforms. Should Nigeria stay the course? Joining us shortly is Dr. Aliyu Ilyas, political economist. He's a supply chain expert, development expert, and he will be with us shortly. Also tonight, our conversation will still be on the increase in the price of petrol. This time around, we're looking at the concerns over further price hike and assessing the impact of the price hike and moving past crude oil focused economy. Lemchi Chidi, public affairs analyst, will be joining us live from Canada. He is a lawyer, author, and conference speaker, BMIA fellow, and we will be speaking with him shortly. Let's take a quick breather. We'll be right back to break it down for you. Stay with us. All right, Nigeria's headline inflation rate in September 2024 rose to 32.70%, up from 32.15% in August 2024. That's a 0.5% increase month on month. This, according to the National Bureau of Statistics Consumer Price Index report, stated that the inflation during the month was propelled by the increases in transportation costs and food prices. This is coming on the heels of the increase in the price of petrol by the NNPCL since early September. Now, you look at food inflation rate in September was 37.77% year on, marking an increase of 7.13 percentage points from the 30.64% recorded in September 2023. Then core inflation, which excludes volatile agricultural products and energy prices, stood at 27.43% year on, an increase of 5.59% points compared to 21.84% in September. So there's quite a lot to unpack. There's a funny change in the dynamics of the geography of inflation rates spread across the 36 states of the country. Let's begin from the top 10. You have Niger State with inflation rate decreasing from 35.41% in August to 35.32%. Food inflation, on the other hand, also saw a more pronounced decrease from 40.51% to 39.8%. So if you're in that state, our prices of food a little bit cheaper. Then we head down to Yobe State. All-time inflation rate increased from 35.43 to 36. And you look at food inflation, 43 to also an increase, 43.22 to 43.5%. Then you look at Gombe, inflation rate rising from 35.23% to 36.4%, showing a 1.17% increase. Also, smaller increase with food inflation, 43 to 44. Then you can see the trajectory. The first states I just called for you now, I mean, they're in the north. You look at Anambra State at number 7, with all-time inflation rate, significant rise from 33.9% in August to 36.1% in September, indicating a 2.2 increase. Then food inflation decreased, falling from 40.09% to 39.8%. Then we'll come back to the north. In Zamfara State, inflation increased from 33 to 34, and food inflation also increased from 37 to 39.4%, almost 40% in Zamfara State. Then we come back to the east, Abia State, with inflation from 34 to 35, and also food inflation from 40.06% to almost 41%. And then Jigawa at number 4, with inflation rate moving from 37 to 38. Food inflation also increasing from 42% to 43%. And we're looking at Kebbi State with an inflation rate also increasing from 37.5% in August to 38%. And food inflation also ticked up slightly from 40 to 41. And you look at the top two states, Sokoto State, the all-time inflation rate saw a substantial increase from 35.89 to 38.7%, marking a 2.81 rise in inflation. And look at food inflation also rose sharply, increasing from 46.98% to 50.5%, reflecting a 3.5% in that state alone. Now let's look at Bauchi, the number one state with the highest inflation rate in Nigeria. It rose from 46.46% in August to 44.8% in September, reflecting a 1.66 decrease in food inflation from 33 to 36%, showing a 2.2 increase. And of course, this is coming from the Nigerian Bureau of Statistics. Well, there's a lot to unpack, so let's just break it down for you. Well, joining us now is Dr. Aliyu Elias. Thank you for being with us, Doc.
Thank you for having me.
All right, so what's your reaction first? Let's start with the inflation rate figures that have just been reported from the Nigerian Bureau of Statistics. What are your thoughts on the latest figures?
Right. I think it is quite expected that we'll have a hike, an increase in price of PMS and other commodities simply because of the recent increment in fuel price. You agree with me that virtually everything is being affected by fuel price, and that's why we said a country without energy security, which their energy costs cannot be predicted, will find it difficult to actually grow, and is reflecting to the fact that Nigeria is having serious challenges in terms of purchasing power, because most of our purchasing power has been eroded by the cost of things in the market.
Now, talking about the World Bank, they've lauded the reforms led by the central bank governor Yemi Kadose, noting that his monetary policies are steering the country in the right direction, with Vice President of the World Bank Group making a statement at the Nigerian Economic Summit on Monday in Abuja, and he commended the CBN governor for his approach to managing inflation, pointing out that 850 basis point increase in interest rates over 9%. Now, how do you make sense of this comment coming from the World Bank, praising this administration for this for the economic realities we are seeing at the moment?
It is expected that they should praise the administration of Bola Ahmed Tinubu and the CBN led by Cardoso, because it's like a lullaby. They are dancing to the tune of Bretton Woods institutions such as World Bank and IMF. You know, when IMF give you a pattern to follow and you follow their pattern, they don't have anything less. They will say, well done. And you could see during the presentation himself, when he said there's need for us to see continue to suffer, I will use that language, for the next 15 years. Everybody, even the elite that are there, everybody burst to laugh, and there was a serious murmur. So I think it's just praising you for will I say bootlicking, or for taking to their advice for the Nigerian economy, which is detriment, I must say.
The question is, should we be listening to the World Bank? Because this same World Bank is projecting that 622 million people, representing 7.3% of global population, will live in extreme poverty by 2030 as efforts to eradicate poverty stall. An institution that's supposed to regulate, the world economy, given this kind of prognosis regarding what will be with poverty for millions and millions of people. Should we be listening to these sorts of persons?
What the fact is that not only Nigeria, we should think about Africa. I think we are at the point of rethinking our geo-economics, where we look at our major present problem and try as much as possible to actually solve it. Because in one hand, the World Bank is praising you. In the other hand, they're also telling you that you have the worst currency. In fact, we are three in Africa. We are at the same level with birr of Ethiopia, and also the pounds of South Sudan. Imagine these are the people that our currencies are the same level with. And they're also praising the same CBN governor for taking heed to their their decisions, policy framework, which is quite saddening that we don't have a CBN, we don't have a government that can be independent. And that's why some of us are looking at other blocks, like the bloc that South Africa belongs to, China, all these people. It's give them more opportunity. But in our case, we want to take everything World Bank or Bretton Woods institution says hook, line, and sinker, which is detrimental to the survival, the economic life of Nigerian citizens. I think we need a president who can really stay on its own and say, yes, we have to do what benefits our people, not what is going to harm citizens. Because let's even look it further. If you look at the fuel crisis now, what bank has advised alongside IMF that we should remove fuel subsidy. Now you have removed fuel subsidy. Does it reduce the problem or it decrease the problem? They also advise you at the same time that you should also float your naira. Now you have done the two combination, and Nigeria is feeling it badly. And we don't see, let me use the language of Mr. President, that we see light at the end of the tunnel. We don't seem to see the light coming at all, because things are getting difficult every now and then. So I think we need an economist who understand Africa, understand Nigeria, and can also give us a solution that fits our problems.
Now, experts are warning that fuel may go up to 2,000 naira. What will be our inflation rate if that happens?
I think it is an open book. It is an open book for Nigerians to see that fuel will definitely increase. And what is the indices and indicators? Number one, you agree with me that fuel price is a global price. And with what is happening between Israel, Iran, Lebanon, all these people around that bloc, and Russia, Ukraine, there's likelihood that it will increase. And once it increases, it's going to affect the amount at which we buy it. And the second thing is that the forex, until dollar got maybe naira get its feet and stop, we reduce the level of devaluation of naira. We cannot have it. How can dollar go as far as 1,700 to one naira, 1,700 naira to $1? It clearly shows that there is no way fuel will not increase, because most of fuel dealings are also carried out in dollars. Forget that government said they will be buying from Dangote with naira. The naira is being equivalent of the dollar cost, so that it doesn't make any difference. So if you look at forex level now and also global oil price, I tell you, we are going to have increase in fuel.
Now, let's still look at the inflation rate across some of the top 10 states. Why is the geography of inflation rate higher more in the north, with just 2 states from the east? I think Anambra and Abia states are just within the top 10. This is not the situation we normally see. You recall previous reports will see more of the southwestern states dominating the top 10 states with the highest inflation rate in the country. Why is this so?
Is flipping, because before it used to be the other side, because I saw that Bauchi have the highest, while Delta have the lowest. So now let's look at it critically. You see that if you look at the cost of fuel, right, the more you move, the more it gets increasing. It's not like before that we have petroleum equalization fund, that the price is the same thing. So if you buy fuel price at 980, 930 in Lagos, you come to Abuja, you're buying it at 1,030 naira. When you move down the north, it's going to be 1,080 naira, as far as 1,100. So I think that's one of the major factors. Then another factor that is surprising, like you rightly said, is that food is always very cheap in the north, especially Bauchi, Jigawa, because they are much more agrarian in nature. So it's quite surprising that we now see the agrarian country states having much more inflation compared to a delta that, according to them, they can only do fishery and oil and gas business. So I think it's like an oxymoron that we need to look at critically. However, we know the factor causing this inflation. Number one is insecurity. You agree with me that Northeast, that Bauchi belongs to, is having serious insecurity. People don't want to go to farm because of fear of being kidnapped, or farmers said that's crisis. Then also the issue of forex, it's affecting everywhere. Nobody is excluded. So these are the problems that we are having. So until we solve this legacy and structural problem, Nigeria will continue to have these challenges of inflation.
Now, for the governors in the Northeast, what can they do to manage this inflation rate situation?
First and foremost, if we look at let's take it from the Medjugorje. You agree with me that the governor is doing all what he can to make sure that things get better, and he has support of the international organization. But you could see the water that just ravaged Maiduguri. That's another problem that we are having. And Kogi is also suffering from a serious flood now. That's a problem, and it will add to our inflation. I don't know how our meteorological agency cannot manage the information very well. Or perhaps, let's say, why the federal government and state government are being like a bicycle in nature to start to really tame these problems until we solve all these natural problems. I mean, is it natural problem that we can manage? That's when we can get what we actually desire. So for governors, I think they need to do more. The first thing our governors should do, remember, governor own the land. It's not a federal government. So if we now said our major problem of inflation is food inflation, I expect every governor to go back to farm, get it mechanized, buy instrument like the Niger state government is actually doing, get a lot of land, cultivate it. You know, if you cultivate it as governor and also encourage state citizens to actually go back to farming very well, I think that would have solved the problem. Because by the time food come cheap, I listened to a statistics that said for you to eat a meal averagely in Nigeria is about 1,200. Depends on where you are. It shouldn't be a place like Lagos, Abuja, Port Harcourt. No, even Kano, but you can see small things, maybe Bauchi. You can get a plate of food at 1,200. But for you to feed a family of 5, you need 150,000 naira in a month to feed them. You now see that there is a serious problem which is food related. Perhaps major income of Nigerians are going into food. About 65% of our income is going to food consumption, which is quite bad. We have not talked about transportation, talk about school fees, talk about house rent, and you see that everything is going. So government, especially state government, governors must do more to make sure that they are farming and making our food available and accessible for citizens.
Now, Doc, let's take some time to move to our next talking point, which has to do with taxation and equity. The chairman of the Federal Inland Revenue Service, FIRS, Zaka Dedeji, stated that the tax reforms being executed by the federal government will not introduce new taxes or increase the tax rate for the existing ones, reassuring Nigerians that the ongoing tax reforms will not involve the introduction of newer taxes, noting that once passed, the bills would help to harmonize the country's multiple tax laws, driving efficiency and modernization, saying that at least a new report that we have laid our eyes on is saying that 99% of Nigeria's wealthiest individuals are evading their tax obligations, contributing to the country's widening revenue gap. This is according to a new report by Oxfam International in Nigeria titled Taxing the Rich, Nigerian Fair Tax Monitor Thematic Report, and which was produced with contributions from several individuals and institutions. Now, let's look at some of the key things the report noted, that based on findings from the FIRS and the Joint Tax Board, out of an estimated 115,000 individuals, HNWIS, in Nigeria, only 40 are compliant with their tax payments, resulting in a compliance rate of just 0.035%. And the report highlights the enormous revenue potential from properly taxing Nigeria's super rich, rather. It estimates that taxing just 4,690 wealthy individuals, those with a net worth of $5 million or more, could raise over 4.59 trillion naira. That's 6 billion annually. That's a lot of money. And the federal government is looking at imposing 25% tax rate on individuals earning 100 million and above monthly in the country. And the chairman of the Presidential Committee on Fiscal Policy, Taiwo Oyedele, stated this of course, during the economic summit organized by the NSEG. So how do you make sense of this report from Oxfam looking at the huge gap on tax equity for the elites? They are evading tax. Only 40% are paying tax, saying over $6 billion could be made annually if things change. Your thoughts, Doc?
Go back to academics and talk about elitist theory. That talk about few people managing the entire people, as in few people managing the entire, administration of a very large country. Now, the fact means that who makes the law? It is the elite. Who actually manage the law? It is the elite. Let me give you a close example. The custom said whoever have private jet, to pay a particular amount, and the due date is so day. Do you know that none of them comply? And even custom itself have to extend it. But if it's a common Nigerian, once you give us a due date and we didn't take to it, you just bring your hammer and hit people. Now the fact remains that I agree that most of our elites, they don't pay because they evade tax, and they know how to even transfer the tax to people. Until this government is very serious about that, they cannot achieve it because they actually make the law itself. According to Adedeji, alongside the Taiwo Oyedele, they said if you make 100 million naira in a month, you have to pay 25%. And 25% of 100 million is 25 million. How many Nigerians will want to trade off that, especially our elitists? But the thing is, it is supposed to be progressive tax in nature, which is correct. The more you earn, the more you pay tax. But if you don't want to earn more and remain where you are, that's how it should be. But my fear is, can they implement it? And I challenge them to that. They cannot implement. Let's see it working, because they are the elite, and the elites always know. Let me give a good example. We could see our businessmen; those are big people. They went and invest at free trade zone where they will not pay tax. It is this very FIRS that will also give a lot of people a tax waiver, which they are supposed to be. It's supposed to be income. Look at the whopping 4.5 trillion that we could be making if we all follow the right thing, stricter censure. But the thing is, most of them will just find a way to tax people less. But I must say this very clearly, that Taiwo Ayodele fiscal and tax team have done exceedingly well. If only we can actually do that, because according to them, if somebody who is earning 70,000 naira is not paying income tax, it will help that person to have more money. Also, if people that are doing less than 50 million in business less than 25 billion rather, can have no tax, free tax to an extent, that will have made them to have more purchasing power to do business. Perhaps they can move from small scale business to a large scale business. So I think the idea is good, but can they implement it?
Now, let's look at the proposal of 25% tax rate for individuals earning 100 million and above. How is this going to work? Is it workable?
Supposed to be. That's their proposition, that once it's passed the law, I think from January, most people that earn 100 million above should pay 25% of their income. It's workable. Depends on how. Go to other countries. In fact, a country like UK survive with tax. Country like South Africa, America, alongside others, survive with tax. It's because we have natural resources. That's why we are not taking that side very serious. Like, it's because of, let me say, PMS. It's because of our oil. That's why we are not taking it serious. Ideally, that's how it's supposed to be. We are supposed to pay progressive tax. The more you earn, the more you pay. The less you earn, the less you pay. I think it's workable.
Now, by workable, to be specific, Doc, I mean, where is the equity in it in terms of the fairness? Because if you say 100 million and above, what about those earning in the billions per month? Are they still going to pay 25%?
Depends now. Now, that's why we need sincerity from FIRS, because when you say equity is supporting who does not really have power to meet up who has power. And that is the equity itself, because if you are paying according to what you earn progressively and it's being shown in that dashboard, it's okay. But the thing is that we have to also be careful, because people will now start finding a way to invade by saying declaring 99 million or declaring less than 100 million. And that's why our tax authority, but with tax level now, I don't think somebody can escape it except they want to overlook it, because I must tell you, they have improved in terms of technology.
Now, Doc, this, of course, has to pass through the Senate. But the question is, will it pass through?
If it is an executive bill from President Bola Tinubu, I don't think they can dodge it. However, they are the elite. They are the real elite that is any higher. So it will affect them. But for them to be patriotic and be a good Nigerians, I think they should pass it for a better standard of living in Nigeria.
Now, Doc, we can talk economics and statistics from now and forever, but the average Nigerian may not follow. How does the government make lives better for Nigerians at this time?
I must tell you this and tell you clearly. Number one is that, in fact, I can tell you, I went to convert my car since 3 months. I've been trying to convert. Finally, I got somewhere to convert. It is 900,000. I can tell you, 900,000 is not within the reach of the poor. Myself, I have to squeeze a lot to actually get it done. So the fact is that government must make it much more easier to access alternative. Now, government have not been playing their part, and they are forcing their way out for citizens. You promised us on 1st May 2023 that your first subsidy is gone. You promised us that CNG will be everywhere. Up to now, we are still struggling to convert our cars. I'm not sure we have up to 5,000 cars converted. Number two, you promised us that refinery will be working. You have not made the refinery working. So I think it's a very difficult time for Nigerians. And our president must be much more proactive compared to being reactive. We didn't elect him to come to the presidency to be thinking. He must be decisive in nature. If you are decisive to remove fuel subsidy, you also be decisive to go to refinery in Port Harcourt and see to what is actually happening. So that will help competition. It will help the price of PMS to come down, and also make sure that we can actually access CNG as and when due. I can tell you that to buy CNG now, you also have to queue. I can tell you for Abuja, we only have one place along Airport Road. I queue for over 1 hour, 30 minutes to buy CNG again. So you see that it's a pretty difficult thing. And I met a one taxi man. I discussed with him, I go, why haven't you converted your car? He said, okay, once you convert it, again, it will become much more scarce and expensive. And I can agree with him now that it is actually correct. You know, people always have cautious optimism when it comes to Nigerian decision and policy pattern that our administration always use.
Once again, thank you, Doc, for your time. We're almost out of time. We've got to speak to our next guest who will be joining us shortly. Thank you for being with us once again.
Thank you for having me.
All right, you're still watching Politics Now. We'll take a quick breather. And of course, when we come back, we'll begin to look at the increase in the price of fuel and its impact. Just stay with us.
What makes the political system what it is today? What are the recurring issues? The tussle for power.
An extremely problematic area.
The tension. The instability of the system. Join Ellen 24/7 as we take you inside the local and international political arena in the world of politics.
Apologize for saying that I was corrupt. I'm not here to call out his lies. Everybody knows he's a liar.
Watch Politics Now on Ellen 24/7.
Don't miss Politics Now on Ellen 24/7.
Hello and thanks for staying with us on LN 24/7. It's time for us to talk about the increase in the price of petrol. Our talking points once again will focus on concerns over further price hike, assessing the impact of the hike and moving past crude oil focused economy. Joining us all the way from Canada is Lemchi Chidi, public affairs analyst. He's also a lawyer, author, conference speaker, and BIMA fellow. And of course, before we get to him, let's just do some little breakdown. Now, you're aware that against the backdrop of the presumed fuel deregulation of Premium Motor Spirit, PMS, also known as petrol, which was believed to have led to the hike in the price of the product, the price may still go up, according to experts. Even on This Morning on the Front Burner segment, Dr. Joseph, public affairs analyst and also PRO of Petran, was predicting that it could go up to 2,000 naira if nothing is done. Now, their warning is also hinged on the depreciation of the foreign exchange rate and increase in the price of crude in the international market. So if the oil sector is fully deregulated, the big question is why does the NNPC keeps announcing price increase? And will that be the case now that Ipman are on board in terms of taking off petrol from the Dangote refinery? Now, do recall that the Socioeconomic Rights and Accountability Project, SERAP, demanded immediate reversal of the latest increase in the price, stating that they do not have the legal standing to do that based on the deregulation of the sector. Now, of course, this is pending the hearing and determination of the suit they filed before the Federal High Court in Abuja, challenging the legality of the powers of the NNPC to increase. Also of major concern is the revelation by Ipman that the cost of petrol from the Dangote Petroleum Refinery to NNPC was about 898 naira per litre. But they noted that NNPC was selling the same product to independent marketers at 1,010 naira per litre in Lagos. And when Dangote was asked to reveal how much they sell to NNPC, there was no comment on that. Now, as Nigerians grab this new reality of fuel increase and the possibility of more to come, the presidency is in Paris on his 2 weeks leave. Special Assistant to the President on Political and Other Matters, Ibrahim Kabir Masari, said the president was expected to attend an important engagement. Well, the country is in their need of a whole lot of rejigging to ensure that prices of fuel work for Nigerians. Well, joining us to discuss on all this and more is Chidi Lemchi, who joins us from Canada. Thank you, sir, for being with us. It's been a long time.
Thanks for having me, Mana.
All right, Chidi, so how do you assess the latest pump price increase?
Interestingly, my opinion has always been, and if you look at my opinion, which is in public space, you will see that my opinion has always been that the subsidy should go. But how but my plan, or not my plan, I should say, my opinion again on the removal of subsidy has always been that it should be phased. There should be a phased removal of subsidy. You don't just yank it off, immediately, like the president did the day he was inaugurated in office, and that led to, a whole lot of confusion and chaos in the system, and up till date, Nigerians are yet to recover from that chaos. Good. Subsidy has to go because there's been a lot of controversy and corruption around the subsidy regime. However, what the approach the president should have used, which is an approach I have always, preached, is that it should be phased, so that the economic shock will not be much, and so that Nigerians can also, contain the economic shock. But right now, that's not what happened. And right now, you can see the situation has become very. People are buying petrol at 1,350. In some areas they're even buying more than that. And you can also see that it has also impacted on other aspects of the economy, particularly regards to agriculture and food. And so you expect that food inflation will go off the roof. As a matter of fact, yesterday night, I was reading about poultry farmers saying that a crate of egg, that Nigerians should expect a crate of egg, high as 10K. So you can imagine that situation.
There's been calls for reversal. Do we go back or we continue this way?
All right. So this is why I started by saying my approach, which I've always preached, is that subsidy removal should be phased. Now, if we had phased it, we won't be having this conversation of whether we should go back. We're having that conversation because the removal was haphazard. I don't know whether you get my point. Having said that, I don't think we should go back, because going back to that regime, look, the money you are spending in subsidy can be channeled in other, areas of the country's national life, like areas of infrastructure development, which Nigeria currently lacks, in education, of course, that the majority of our education is donor funded. Now, if we channel that we're paying to education, it will take chunk of whatever we're collecting, in fund. So I don't think we should go back. However, this is what I think. I think that is high time the president or this administration begins to speak up or begins to talk to Nigerians, all these hide and seek, playing hide and sort of, currently with the state of our finance, this is what is coming in. This is what we're doing with what is coming in. And I'm promising that this is what I will do with what we are saving from subsidy. I don't know where I get my point. The whole subsidy regime is fraught with corruption. I hope you remember during the time of President Jonathan when there was a probe just after the Occupy Nigeria protest, and President Jonathan instituted this probe to probe the subsidy regime. Of course, you saw the litany of revelation, corrupt revelation, that came out of that probe, and that didn't stop. And it has not stopped. The only way to stop it is to stop the paying subsidies and allow market forces to determine the price of petroleum products. Yes, over it will go high, but by the time market forces begin, you have more people coming into that space, beginning to play in that space. You will notice that over time, the prices will level out. But I don't think it's something we should go back to. But the president has to start talking to Nigeria and also begin to, bring out other policies to cushion the effect of subsidy removal. Look, sharing bags of rice would not solve the situation. It won't solve the situation. He has to go the whole hog.
Now, analysts are saying that prices will go higher, but if we're leaving prices for market forces, why is the NNPC announcing price increase?
Absolutely. So I agree with the analysts saying that. Now, that's why I said we need to go all the whole hog. I think I've used that word 2 times. We need to go the whole hog, deregulate fully, hands off. Government has no business in business, hands off, and just play the part of a regulatory agency, ensuring that standards are met. Leave the issue of pricing. Why is the NNPC, and all these agencies, but why are they interested in fixing prices? Why are they interested in telling Nigerians this is how much you have to pay? You know, Granted, the prices will go high. I said the prices. I'm not averse to that situation that the prices will go high. The prices will go high. But when you have a level playing ground with government handing off business, allowing a level playground, allowing fair competition and all that, over time the prices will level out. That's one. Two, when government begins to provide the needed palliatives. And when I talk about palliatives, I'm not talking about bags of rice or sharing of noodles. No, I'm talking about, creating an enabling environment for businesses to thrive. Because when businesses thrive, businesses make more money, they hire more people, they pay more, and paying more means that the people are able to afford the things that seem very expensive right now. But it's because government has not provided an enabling environment for businesses to thrive. That is why you have a biting economic situation right now. To be honest with you, i've never seen things this bad. Not even under the military administration not even under the military of administration of the man who introduced SAP did we see things get this bad. You know, and of course, not even under the administration of the military leader that eventually died in office and Obasanjo took over power from. Not even under his administration have we seen things this bad. So government needs to sit up. They need to wake up. It's no longer business as usual. The president needs to begin to ask himself, what legacy do I want to leave behind? I also do not want to, overlook the fact that he inherited a very terrible economy from his predecessor. That we should give the president, that benefit of the doubt. That yes, he inherited a very terrible economy from his predecessor. However, when my car has an issue, you have a car, man, and if your car has issues, and you take it to a mechanic, you expect that that mechanic should be able to rectify the issue, right? You don't expect the mechanic to further damage or complicate the issues. And that's essentially what this government have done. They inherited a bad situation and they've ended up complicating matters.
You mentioned subsidy. Now, money is recovered from subsidy. Where is the accountability? That's one question. And is increased FAC allocations enough? Because, the presidency always say that, look at FAC allocations across the 36 states. It's increased. So does that cover up for accountability?
We talk about also trying to sort out our present or come out of our present economic quagmire. We shouldn't only be talking about how much we've saved in subsidies, and how much we've channeled from what we've saved into developing the economy. That shouldn't be the only thing. We are also overlooking the fact that state governors, have not stepped up to the plate. We are just concentrating on what is happening in Abuja. Granted, I understand why we do that. We do that because, more or less, we run a unitary system of government, even though we claim to be a federal system, even though we claim to run a federal system of governance, but it's more or less a unitary system. But we need to also begin to query our governors' manner. Some of these governors collect FAC and they don't use it for what is designated for. They don't use it judiciously. They use it to fund white elephant projects like going to start airports. For goodness sake, nobody needs that sort of infrastructure. What we need is to fix education, fix healthcare, fix the economy, create a enabling environment for the real sector to thrive. Create that environment for the real sector to thrive. Let me also say here, and let me be on record. I want to put myself on record that the sharing of cash, what we now call conditional cash, to people, 5,000 naira, 10,000 naira, will not solve the current crisis that we are in. Giving 10,000, 5,000 to individuals to, dashing the money will not solve their problem. You don't solve poverty by giving people fish. You solve poverty by teaching them how to fish. In this situation, how do you teach Nigerians to fish? Government at all levels, federal, state, and local government levels. Unfortunately, we don't have a local government. Local government is not independent, as far as I'm concerned, in Nigeria today. But government at all levels, they need to step up to the plate and they need to begin to use, these funds judiciously, to begin to address that situation. So when we talk about removal of subsidies, we shouldn't only focus our eyes on the money saved. We should be asking ourselves, we should be going beyond that and asking ourselves, what are what are these governors, these politicians, permanent secretaries, commissioners, and their like, and their agents, what are they using these funds for?
Lemchi, Nigerians are really, having a second thought to local refinery because, you look at the Dangote refinery, prices are not looking so great. So what will that even do? Will it do any good?
Okay, so I remember when the former spokesman of the current president, who used to work with the former president, President Buhari, he's one of his spokespersons, came on air and said, I think it was on Channels TV, that Channels, I can't remember, but I saw the video, the clip is all out there. He came on television and he said, you see, when immediately we finish Aliko Dangote's refinery, petroleum prices will crash. I was one of the people who laughed. I had a very good laugh because that's not how things work. Are you getting my point? So that you have a refinery doesn't mean that you're going to buy petrol cheap. All the countries that have refineries, if we want to do a comparison, of how much their citizens are buying petrol products to how much Nigerians are buying petrol products, you will discover Nigerians are buying it cheap because of subsidy, right? Now, the reason why those guys are also buying petrol at a very high expense is because petrol is sold at international pricing. Nigeria government does not have control of that. Yes, they may be members of OPEC, but we need to ask ourselves, who are the influencers? Who are the people who influence decision making in OPEC? But also the reason why I do not want to do that sort of comparison is because we also need to compare the quality of life, say for example, in a country like Saudi Arabia, we need to compare the quality of life in those places, Singapore, to the quality of life back home in Nigeria. What's the minimum wage? What's the HDI in those countries compared to HDI in Nigeria? That's why I usually do not like, making such forms of comparison, because it's a catch-22 situation, So, but the fact is this, that you have a refinery does not mean that automatically your prices will crash. That's not how things work. That's not how pricing of petroleum products also work, because petroleum products are sold at international market. Aliko Dangote does not control the international market. As a matter of fact, you saw him, on the other day on Bloomberg. I don't know whether you saw the interview. I saw the interview on Bloomberg where
I
he
did.
was saying that he was saying that he never knew that oil cartel they was stronger than drug cartel. So until he started building the refinery. And of course, you can also see a lot of sponsored articles against that refinery. The point is this: we need to get rid of subsidy, yes, but government now needs to begin to ratchet up, policies that would make life easier, make life better, for its citizens. Not just that, make businesses to thrive. Because where businesses thrive, you hire more people. When you hire more people, you're also going to pay more money. And when you pay more money, those things that look very difficult to achieve or to buy in the market becomes very easy. So that's what where we should be looking at. We should be asking ourselves, has government made it very easy for businesses to thrive? And when I talk about government making things easy to thrive, we also need to look at, what sort of rulings are coming out of our, because when businesses or investors see the kind of ruling coming out of our court system, they begin to ask themselves, is this place a safe place for me to take my money or investment to? We also need to begin to ask ourselves, what form of is Nigeria practicing rule of law? Has the government created a system, where rule of law is practiced? Has government created a system where fairness, and justice thrives? Because all these things contribute towards, creating an acceptable and a business-friendly environment for businesses to begin to flow in. What Nigeria has now is FX challenge, and Nigeria needs tremendous amount of FX to begin to flow into it. But that will not happen until some of these issues that I've raised are addressed.
So how do we move past a crude oil focused economy? I mean, diversification has been something that I've since learned back when I was in primary school, but we're not even yet close to that.
Thank you. And that's what I want to, focus more discussing. One of the things we need to do is not as though, the economy is not currently diversified. Our economy is currently diversified. I must tell you that. If you look at GDP, how much is crude contributing to GDP? But having said that, what government needs to do right now is to begin to pay attention to several other sectors of the economy. Creative economy. A lot of things can happen in the creative space. Creative economy. And by that, I'm talking about entertainment and the rest of them. Look at what our Nigerian musicians are doing, even without the help of government. Now imagine when government now comes in to begin to help them, to begin to invest in that sector, to begin to create policies, that will put Nigeria in the map. Look, if it's difficult for you now, it's difficult for you now to go to any part of the world and not see foreigners playing and dancing to Nigerian music. That is what our support of government per se. Government needs to begin to do more in that space. Government also needs to begin to do more in the area of technology. It amazes me that with all the talent that we have, technological talent that we have, in young people in Nigeria that we've we've not scratched the surface. We've not scratched the surface, and we can begin to do more. Look, Nigeria used to have a minister called Mrs. Omobolaji Johnson. God bless that woman. When she was Minister of Science and Technology, you could see movement, you could see, progress, you could see improvement. That's when you had all manner of all you had all the guys in California wanted to visit Nigeria because she did a lot, to put Nigeria's technology skill and gift, in the world space. So you had all those guys, who worked, who are in Silicon Valley, wanted to invest in Nigeria, and you saw how much they were pumping back in Nigeria. You saw a co-creation hub even, started bringing all sorts of, all those Silicon Valley giants back to Nigeria, and they were invested in Nigeria. Now, government needs to do more of that. You don't need to reinvent the wheel. You don't change your winning team. All you need to do is to find out what is working and improve on it. Find out what you've improved on. It needs to begin to speak into the area of rule of law. Look, we don't know what this rule of law thing has done to us. And I'll give you an example. I was in an MBA class. When I was in my MBA, I was in a class, ethics class. The course was ethics, and the teacher was teaching. The teacher who was teaching us was using Nigeria as an example. How rule of law, how Nigeria is not a country of rule of law, and he was citing a series of examples. And Nigerians in that class, look, we couldn't dispute it. Some of us we were making sounds, and he said, look, that he's not saying all these things to run down the country, but that we can clearly see that all the examples he has cited are true. And he asked, does anybody want to dispute it? And to be honest with you, as much as I raised my hand and I tried to paint the country in a good light, and some of the things I was saying, there were the whole class was laughing. We don't know what the lack of rule of law is doing. Is having an adverse effect on our economy. So government needs to begin to address all those issues. I mean, a court will sit down, make judgments, and sitting government officials will, look the other way.
Lemchi, like I lost you there. Are you with me?
So I was saying that, look, the guys there right now are the Nadeko. I like to call them the Nadeko and the Pronaco generation, including the Bayo and Nanuga that you once interviewed. These were all people, who were in Nadeko, not just in Nadeko, in Pronaco, and then became opposition party. And it saddens me, I must say, it saddens me to see that all the things they criticized, the military for, the things they criticized PDP for, we're seeing them happening. We're seeing them happening. We're seeing, lack of empathy happening. Just today, I saw the video of the Senate President Akpabio saying that Nigerians should be taking advantage of free food. That is a reckless statement. It should be coming from the Senate President of Nigeria. We should be the third person in order of things. It should be coming from him. It shows a lack of empathy. And outside world, they're all seeing these things. And when they see it, tell me, would they bring money to put money into that place? No, they won't bring their money because they will say to themselves, no, I don't want to go and sponsor irresponsibility, sponsor lack of empathy. So they would rather take their money to places where they have confidence in judiciary, where they have some element of confidence, in the government of the day, like Kenya, like South Africa, and some other places. So these are like I said, these are some of the things that government needs to begin to address immediately, if we want to begin to turn the tide. because right now there's so much hopelessness, there is so much trepidation, there is so much, doubt. A lot of people I've spoken with said to me that, Chidi, I don't see, an end in sight. Nothing inspires hope. And that's why I said that the president should begin to address, town halls, strategic town halls, not, hold up in Abuja. He should be moving around doing town halls, trying to connect to the people, with the people, trying to inspire hope in the people. Once again, for goodness sake, his mantra when he was coming to office was a renewed hope. But right now, like they say on Twitter, what Nigerians are seeing is renewed shege.
All right. Thank you so much for sharing your thoughts with us tonight.
All right. Have a good one. Bye.
And that's our show for today. Keep it locked right here on LN 24/7 for more great programs and news updates. You can visit our website, www.ln247.news. Once again, my name is Morno Balagogo. It's been a great time having you join us on Politics Now.